The idea of taking a break used to make my skin crawl. Like it just really did, because then I felt like if I take one day off, then I'm missing an opportunity, or I'm not going to be as successful, or someone is going to eat more than I am this week.
Something that we have learned through our years of experience is that if you're not willing to plan ahead for breaks and holidays and seasons off, it's really challenging to sustainably keep an awesome show going if you aren't respecting the off season, the breaks, and the holidays. But we're doing an episode all about the importance of taking a break, the fact that you deserve a break, and that holidays are something to actually build into your strategy of creativity, rejuvenation, appreciating your team, making sure you're taking care of them, and why this is actually an essential part of a show's success. So, we're just going to give you a few tips of how we've learned to do this successfully on the many different shows we've worked on. And then, of course, we'll give you a little extra motivation if you're still not convinced that this is something you need to take seriously. So, first off, pro tips about how to successfully plan and take what I like to call stress-free breaks. So, this could be for anything big, right? Holidays. It could be for some big life event that's happening. I got married this summer, so I was taking off an entire week. Everything was completely like my phone was on Do Not Disturb. I was responding to nothing for a week. Maybe you have a baby coming, or you know you're taking a huge family vacation in the summer. You have a real life. And so it's really important to honor that, and to know that your team has a real life and they need to take breaks. And it's a huge asset to everyone involved if you plan ahead. So, got it, Christine. How do I do this realistically speaking? Well, the number one tip that may come as a surprise, it may not, is to batch record your content. And what this means, if you're not familiar with the term, is to actually record multiple pieces of content in one sitting. So it doesn't matter if you're doing this on audio only or if you're including video. It's where you strategically plan ahead with your team and you say, okay, here's our recording date. We want to get this many pieces of content recorded. So let's say you have a podcast. Maybe you decide we're going to record 2 podcast episodes. And if there's any other little things you needed, maybe for social media, or you had some kind of promotion coming up, you have it all pre-planned. You've got your outlines, your scripts, you've got your notes. Everyone comes together, they're set up to win, and you record all at once. Now, of course, this is going to look different for everyone, because if your show is typically filmed in really long format, we're talking like over an hour of an episode, maybe you have a guest, of course it's going to look a little different. You're not going to record 5 episodes in a day. But if you have a shorter show and you're maybe just the single host, there's no guest. It's like a show like Tiff and I, we're co-hosts. We don't have guests right now, so it's not a big deal for us to just get together. You might be able to record several pieces of content. So you've got to be realistic. You need to plan ahead. And this isn't a burden. This is a blessing. It helps everyone on your team, even if you are your team, to actually feel really confident. Like, we are ahead of the game. We've got stuff batch recorded. It's already ready to go. It means the editors can be working on it well ahead of schedule. If something unexpected comes up and we can't meet a certain recording date, it's okay. We're already ahead. I could go on and on and on about the value of a batch recording your content. Now, like I said, this is going to look different for everyone. So if you realize, listen, we've got a filmed show, we have high profile guests that come in, we can't always schedule them on the same day, we're a little bit at the mercy of what they do. Yeah, of course, you're going to have some realistic expectations there, but I'm still going to make the case that if you sit back at the start of your season, or before preferably, and you look at the next several months and you're like, okay, here's where all of our talent is. Here's the host of the show. Here's what trips they have going on, their other commitments. Then you can actually find the pockets of time in your schedule where you have extra bandwidth to record more. And that's where I would recommend you kind of slate more of your episodes. So it may seem like a little bit of a pipe dream, but it's not. And we're here to tell you it makes a world of difference, so that when things like holidays and breaks and family events come up, you are all set up to win. Okay, so that may be something that you are already a fan of, or it may not be. So if someone's kind of resisting this idea of not working nonstop, Tiff, what would you have to say to them?
You deserve a break. Now, I understand being a recovering multi hyphenate, and I don't know if I'm completely in recovery from being a workaholic, but we have ideas and we get excited and we're creators and we just want to keep going. And especially if you're someone like me who probably moved to a new city and you are kind of, you're just in the hustle, the grind kind of mindset, there's no way that you don't burn out. I mean, just going day by day. I know I was working well into 12-hour days, not taking weekends, just going. And I don't regret anything, honestly. Like if I stay in that state of regret, then life will be very dark. So I do my best to not think about the past, but I think about how I can do better moving forward. And even in this last week, I scheduled a complete day off, which I haven't done in 7 years. But I took a Saturday and I just was like, I'm just going to do human things. I'm going to wash my clothes, wash my hair. Like I am just going to take a break. And having this show with Christine, knowing how reliable she is as a person and collaborating with her and knowing that when she says something, she gets it done, it makes me better as a person, but also it allows me to have time to think, to be creative if we are ahead, if we are not always scrambling every week trying to think of what we're going to come up with and what we're going to create. And the idea of taking a break used to make my skin crawl. Like it just really did, because then I felt like if I take one day off, then I'm missing an opportunity, or I'm not going to be as successful, or someone is going to eat more than I am this week. I don't know. There's so many weird things that go into my head, but I know that I'm not alone in this, because when I talk to other creators, when I talk to other people who are sort of very entrepreneurial thinking, like Christine and I are, that is just a common idea of you don't stop hustling, you don't stop grinding. And I would just like to emphasize that whether or not you are your own like accounting company, or you're a painter, an artist, or you're a therapist, you are creative. Like you are a creator. And to get your business going, to be able to actually financially support yourself through these creative channels takes brain activity, takes time. And if you are able to give yourself some rest, some breaks, some self-care, I would argue that you would have a better time, an easier time creating, because you're not constantly pushing yourself. So that's really why we wanted to talk about this. The burnout is just not worth it. I've burnt out. I know you've burnt out, Christine. We've been able to push ourselves past the breaking points. And so when we started this show and we decided we were going to collaborate with each other, we just knowing from our experience, just like, I would love for this to stay fun. I would love for this to stay creative. I would love to always have joy whenever Christine is texting me about the episode, even if something went completely wrong and we couldn't figure it out, because we are getting ahead. We are planning rest. We are planning breaks. We are making sure that we are serving ourselves as human beings as much as we're serving ourselves as that entrepreneur side, that we have in us. So I just, don't want to be on a soapbox, because this is hard for me. This is very hard for me too, but you deserve the break. You are worthy of rest, and you are a creator. Like I said, no matter what your job title is or your occupation, you are creative. And so having that rest to create, to support yourself, I think is only going to help you. And man, I just kind of like want to give everyone a hug, because I feel like that was almost therapy for myself, to just remember that I deserve a break right now. But yes, it's very important. And I think it would be great, Christine and I, right now, just to kind of give a special shout out to the people who have supported us. So we came up with this idea. Technically, we didn't. You did. I'm going to let you came up with this idea of this show.
Well, to be honest, it descended into my mind from a higher source. The truth is, we came up with the show on a very specific day when I was interviewing Tiff for an episode on my personal podcast, Worthful Project. I was doing a series on worthful work, all about how to own your worth in your work. And as we were having the conversation, I just had this complete epiphany that wouldn't it be great to actually have a co-hosted podcast together where we could share a lot of our wisdom. And specifically when I say that, like what we just talked about in this episode, the real life lessons, yeah, of course we're going to cover technical how-tos and marketing strategies and things that look great on a, on an episode title. But the thing that we really have a heart for, as you can probably tell from watching this episode, is this kind of emotional intelligence, this kind of sort of career intelligence to understand the ebb and flow of your energy and the chapters of your life and how to stay successful through all of them by treating yourself kindly and as a human being. So, yes, this show, the heart of it is really coming out in this early episode. And just to make you aware, there's a lot more of this coming. Of course, subscribe to the podcast over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you love to listen, because our audio episodes are often a little longer. They include a little more detail. And then, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel because we've got awesome video content for you here. But back to gratitude, we have an amazing, a very extensive group of people to thank, people who supported us for years in so many ways. But specifically today, we wanted to thank the people who made this show and this episode possible. And so I'll thank myself.
I want to thank me.
No, just kidding. I'm thanking Worthville Media, which is my agency for the audio editing. It's a joy for me to do on this show, but I'm just going to give a shout out to my agency because that is something that I enjoy doing for specific clients. So thank you, Worthville Media, for the audio editing. And thank you to our amazing graphic designer, who happens to be a dear friend, Amela Subashish. She's incredible. She made our awesome show artwork. If you've seen it, obviously on our banners and our Apple Podcasts, that's all Amela. We love her so much. We're so thrilled she did our artwork.
Yes, and a special thanks to the husband and wife team from Psycho Productions, Jorge and Veronica. They took Amela's amazing artwork and turned it into animations and VFX and all the cool things that you see, our credits, our end screens, all that stuff coming directly from them. And they're just amazing creativity. And I will say, like, any editing work that you need, that's where you go. Any artwork that you need or graphic design, Amela is where you go. We are just so grateful to have a tribe and a team to support us. And again, this ideation of the podcast was about 3 months ago from the time that we're recording this right now. And the only way we could have pulled this off was batch recording and collaborating and working with a team. So we just want to make sure we re-emphasize that. We're also just very, very, very grateful for all of you for tuning in, for being here, for being the day one supporters of this podcast and what we're creating right now. And this is our educational platform for you. So please leave a comment below. Tell us your biggest takeaways from this episode. Tell us how you set your life up to rest and to be able to be creative. What do you do for yourself on a weekly, monthly, or yearly basis? I think it would be great if we can just discuss that as a community below and continue to give each other tips and tricks on how to have a life and a business. So please, just comment below and let's just keep the conversation going.
You know what? That might be weird that I said that. Do you want to say big thanks to Worthville Media for audio? And you can start with the audio and the video, and then I can say Amela.
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
I want to cut in that Snoop Dogg. I just want to thank myself.
That would be hilarious.